A game where 99% of the people who play are unable to complete one of the easiest encounters on the easiest difficulties, and a tutorial that has an achievement rate of 35%. I am in way over my head right now. This is From the Depths, a silly game where you make ships, tanks, or planes, and get to battle other fleets of enemies with insane levels of customization, destruction, and depth. It's pretty simple at its surface: build a little ship, give it an anime girl's voice, and go blow up or get blown up by other strange contraptions. The only limit to the game is your imagination. Need some anti-missile lasers? How about a giant fully functioning fly swatter that knocks inbound missiles out of the air? Looking to haul materials or want to block the Suez Canal? Have you tried building your ships a kilometer in length? How about a squadron of sentient cameras that flashbang enemy pilots into crashing their ships in the sea? Everything from 40-foot EMP cannons that pull ships out of the air, to cans of meat that fire missiles, to massive functioning Godzilla robots, or literally just a gunship. Everything is possible in this game. It's not very effective, but you know people will be thinking twice when you pull this WAP out. On its Steam page, it's listed as a building sandbox physics game, but they forgot to mention that it's also a psychological horror. 8,000 very positive comments, and yet nobody has gotten the achievement for beating an outpost that you can get to in like 10 minutes. You see, as it turns out, this game has one of the most diabolical learning curves I think I've ever experienced in my life. And whilst I think games like this are cool, I was tricked into playing it. I found this game from a comment on my video on Let It Die, describing the game as not even hard since you can swim over and obliterate it with a pistol. Well, congratulations, you got me. You got me so good. I literally had to get an actual mechanical engineer graduate who has 2,000 hours on the game, and you sucked over 10 hours of my life on the first achievement in the game! This is not a learning curve. It is a learning wall that's covered in spikes and requires you to go to an Ivy League university for 4 years to understand anything of what's going on. So, let's hop into the tutorial, shall we? Basic training. Build your boat. Captain your boat. That seems fine. Automate your boat. Tactical control. Strategic control. Okay, yeah, okay, that's a bit more complicated, but I get it. Combat engines, vertical launch missiles, basics of resources, logistics, particle cannon guide, AI deep dive. Yeah, what? You know what? I'm glad that the game at least doesn't play with me. It knows that AI deep dive is in the essentials of what you need to know to even have a fighting chance at this game. However, I didn't have all the time in the world, and I was hopeful that with sheer gamer intuition, I'd be able to bluff my way through things. Plus, if I'm just trying to get this achievement on easy mode, it's easy mode, right? Welcome to build mode. Everything is a complete nightmare mess here. You want to construct a seaworthy ship, kid? Well, you better make sure to check the natural buoyancy of the material you use.
We will go over engines in much more depth in future tutorials.
Oh, we're gonna go over in more depth, are we? We'll go over engines in much more depth in future tutorials. If you think we've even begun to talk about internal combustion engines,
we will go over missiles in more depth in a future tutorial. Cycle the central mirror off.
I love it when he says we're going to talk about things more in depth in a future tutorial. I love it when he says that. I love it. Despite it being just a little unintuitive, we grasp the basics of how combat works, basically controlling AI turrets and firing them and getting this really cool tracking animation if we hit caps lock that follows the rockets and... Sorry, I'm really broken after this. I learned how to put AI onto my fortress. That was AI in Artificial Alone and was voiced by an anime girl that screamed when my fortress was inevitably bombed into the sea. Here we go! We're taking damage! No, Boncha! Still, I was learning. I tried to make my little dinghy all on my own, and I was off racing into the distance. And I was also playing the entirely wrong game mode. We're going to Davy Jones' locker. You better start believing in epic funny fart compilation videos. You're in one. Fast learner. Only 35% of people have done that. It wasn't that hard. I've got a rare achievement now. So after I realized that I wasn't actually playing the campaign, which is where the achievement that I wanted was, I hopped onto the campaign mode, zoomed out the map to get my bearings, and oh god, oh. So that was me, in a small corner of the massive ocean, unable to find a map that would help me, unable to figure out where Davy Jones' outpost was so I could conquer it, unable to really figure out anything that was going on. We were barely 2 hours into this adventure, and I was still cautiously optimistic, so I put my sea shanties on and I began to sail. After a while, we were presented with an option, a meeting of the council. I had so many options before me: wage war in a faction whilst gaining favour with another faction, join a couple of other factions, and waging war against multiple other factions. There were so many choices, and I was a little bit overwhelmed with all of this information now being thrown in my face. So I took what can only be described as the first and final answer. Go on then, Davy! Minigun on your hotbar? That'd probably be better, wouldn't it? Despite being in essentially a life raft while the enemies soared above me as I peppered them with SMG bullets, it turns out that even when you blast them out of the air with sheer determination, their weapon systems are very much still online. I was born 100 years into the past and had to return to base to figure out what my next plan of action was. And that plan of action was to reload a save, and this time do not choose all-out war with every other faction, instead choosing to become enemies with the achievement faction that I was going for, the DWG. I realized that in a battle of land, sea and air, I needed to start scouting the areas around me as fast as I could, and I was gonna need some faster wheels. That journey you watched me take, that was 30 minutes of real life time setting sailing the open seas, and I was dead in about 3. After trying and failing to place multiple Harrier jet blueprints down and realizing I could barely make my boat go back and forth, how am I going to get it to also go up and down? I once again had to return to the drawing board. I took my little life raft out again, thinking now that since I figured out how to get the minigun working, I could really rattle some bones with this thing. I was then made aware of the fact that in this game, all the while you've captured points, you're acquiring materials over time, which are basically the resources that you use to make, repair ships. Well, the AI, they also accumulate them, and they actually know how to build multiple ships. So if I'm stuck in a tiny little dinghy, there is every single possibility that in the hour it took me to sail over, die, and sail over again, they have progressed their technology to levels beyond my understanding. Regardless, we'll try it again. Razum.
Descend bullets from the sky upon...
Okay, this is getting a little old now, but I think we may have to go back to the drawing board again. There was a member of my chat called Ark watching me the entire time, giving some pretty great information on how I could work towards my goal, giving me pointers on how to build my ship. So I decided to grab them in a Discord call and help me, because I was starting to lose it a little bit. How many hours you got in this game? Just out of curiosity.
About 2,000.
So what's your university major in?
Engineering.
Oh my god. I'm not really that surprised, I'm gonna be honest with you. As it would turn out, they had 2,000 hours in this game, and they were exactly the kind of mercenary that I needed for this mission. Over the course of an hour, I crafted my perfect boat waifu, complete with double missile launchers built into the hull, and 2 massive cannons that could fire a hole straight through the moon. It asked me if I wanted to name my boat. I said, sure. So I took my boat out, who we will now refer to as Shurchan, because I installed multiple AI voice simulators onto the ship, out on the open waters, hunting for revenge. I had yet to win an actual battle yet, but I felt good about this one because my friend Ark assured me it was probably good enough to tackle the first outpost. I was intercepted on my way there by a flying ship, and we engaged. Realizing that my boat waifu Shurchan was struggling and managing to ground the ship, I dove out of my boat, swam all the way to the enemy vessel, and boarded with complete intent to tear this place apart. That was when I learned that if you can find access to the enemy's AI waifu and shoot it whilst you're on board, you can capture their ship. This ship was much better than my ship, so after tearing through as much as I could, we found the AI and we captured the vessel, so now we had 2 different boats for our war fleet. If Shurchan alone was enough to beat the outpost, now I was essentially unstoppable. I took the long journey back to base to repair the ship I had just conquered, and we made back out to sea. Soon we were intercepted again, this time by 2 enemy aircrafts, but that just meant it was an even fight. My ships fought hard, even when their sails were destroyed, they held on as long as they could. I even hopped out the boat to try and chase down 2 flying ships on foot with nothing but a machine gun. My ships were thoroughly destroyed though, and guess what? We were back at square one again. That was when it became a revenge story. My ship waifu had been killed, taken from me, and I wasn't about to let those landlubbers get away with it. So I did the only thing a man could do in my situation. I went onto the Steam Workshop and downloaded the 1918 Queen Julia battleship with over 50 different guns on it. I built 3 of them, and it almost destroyed my computer. This was war. I took my ships onto the water, and I even decided that I would craft myself another Shur-chan. She wasn't as fast as her older brothers, but I decided that she could capture some of the areas of water as we went, you know, just in case of emergency. Shur-chan was jumped again by enemy vessels when her older brothers weren't looking, and she was dead again. A double revenge story. We fought through ship after ship as I learned the location of the achievement, Davy Jones Outpost. It was in sight, and as I approached the final part of my journey, I thought about all the things that I had learned to get here. I realized that I had not learned anything at all. So we engaged the battle, and whilst my battleship took heavy damage, almost completely blowing itself to pieces because it was apparently hooked up like a nuclear bomb, that if one explosion started on the ship, it would cause a chain reaction that would take out half the vessel. I decided that I wanted to end things a little bit more personally. I wanted to end things with my bare hands. So I jumped off the ship, took to the water, breaking out all the supports from under the fishery that protected the main outpost, bringing it crumbling into the sea. Finally, Davy Jones' outpost had rendered in, and I was face to face with the white whale that I had been chasing for the last third of a day. I started breaking all the beams out from under it, and somehow, through a bizarre twist of fate, my battleship's AI would accidentally target and direct hit the main AI system on the enemy outpost, which, given my proximity, now put it entirely under my control. I had done it. I'd beat the outpost and become a true warlord of the open seas, but I didn't have an achievement. Something was wrong. I considered that the achievement mentioned that you had to destroy the outpost, that I technically captured it, not destroyed it. But then I thought back to a really small menu that I didn't really pay attention to that mentioned because I had changed a setting a little while back that I would have to change to custom difficulty. As it turns out, when the achievement says easy or higher, custom difficulty is not higher than easy. I gave up for the night, now realizing that I had just wasted the last 4 hours of my life. Cut to a few days later, I was ready this time to reload my save, make sure we were definitely on easy mode, and I built the same ships again in a bid to take out Davy Jones' outpost, and take them out we did. Davy Jones' outpost was destroyed this time in a fight that took like 45 minutes because there was so many other ships that just kept jumping into the fray. But once again, there was no achievement. Suddenly, after another hour and a half of my life, I was starting to get desperate. I jumped onto the From the Depths Discord and I asked for help. People said there was other outposts I needed to take out. I asked for a map. I received the lowest resolution image ever conceived by mankind. I took back out on the water and hunted down outpost after outpost, anything that I could find that was remotely related to the Deepwater Guard, and yet nothing. I took to Reddit, only to find a Reddit thread of someone asking the same thing as me, with a simple response saying, yeah, achievements for that are bugged. Complete and utter catastrophe. I have failed my mission, and I let you all down, but in the final attempt to get the achievement, I got a pop-up, and when I went to check the achievement stats on it, it was one that had only a 2% achievement rate. I had failed in my main mission, but in doing so, I had still accomplished a task that many who boot this game up could never say that they've ever done. And quite frankly, I do not understand how I got it. To the developers, Brilliant Skies, I know you're based in the same city as me, so I will say this in the hopes that you legally understand that this is not a threat. Give me my achievement. Davy Jones is no more and I deserve my crown. I am intimidating and I will run up on you. Still, if I die of my brain exploding from too much IQ, just know that I cursed the subscriber who recommended this game to me. And if you want to curse your entire bloodline, then you should probably suggest some other rare achievements or maybe subscribe to this channel as well, I guess. Thank you all so much to the members of this channel and our Twitch subscribers. My brain is falling to pieces, and I never want to look at this game this year, at least. Have a good one.